What's up guys, Handish here, and today I wanted to do an exotic review for the Khvostov auto rifle in the Rise of Iron. So this is going to be a general look at the weapon with my impressions of how it handles in different modes and activities. I'm not going to be looking in depth at DPS and all of that kind of stuff, but more of a showcase of the weapon and whether it actually kills things and how it feels to use. So first let's take a look at the perks. So we have the classic scope, which is just the original broken glass scope, and the modernized scope, which is essentially just a fixed version of that. You do get more stability and range by a small amount by using the classic scope, so it's worth bearing that in mind. It's a small trade-off and really depends whether you can deal with the broken sight or not. It's up to you. But moving on, we have the firing modes. We have full auto, burst fire, and semi-auto fire. Up next is hammer forged, rifle barrel, and braced frame, extended mag, counterbalance, and rangefinder. It does have an intrinsic perk of lightweight, and as well as this, we can switch the RPMs on the weapon between 450 and 900 RPM, so you can actually change its rate of fire, which will also change its archetype ever so slightly in the process. So now let's take a quick look at the firing modes right here. First we have full auto at 450 RPM. And then at 900 RPM, which actually makes it a new archetype, somewhere between a Hakon's Hatchet variety and a Doctrine of Passing, which is pretty interesting. Up next is burst fire at 450 RPM, which is super slow right there. Then we have 900 RPM, which is pretty close to a Grasp of Malak archetype, but with lower impact and then slightly higher rate of fire. Finally, we have semi-auto at 450 RPM, which still fires pretty damn fast, and then at 900 RPM, which will actually let you fire faster than you can push your trigger, unless you had a modded controller or something by the looks of it, so that's really interesting. But how does it handle in PvP? Well, it's okay. I have to say that the full auto mode is by far the most effective mode on this weapon for me, which does make sense since it's an auto rifle. When you're at 450 RPM, you're going to have a fairly similar experience to what you'd have using some of the lower rate of fire ARs in the game. They can kill things, but they aren't the most competitive weapons. The 900 RPM mode is, however, pretty damn good. It sits somewhere between that Doctrine Hakon's Hatchet archetype, and it performs really well in this mode. This is the strongest archetype of auto rifle in the Crucible after all. It causes pretty good flinch and does nice damage. I'm going to go ahead right now and say that in my opinion, full auto 900 RPM is the single best mode for this gun in PvP. When it comes to the burst fire modes, the 450 RPM mode is just way too slow for PvP and isn't really going to be viable for most players. The 900 RPM mode is okay, it will kill things, but things like Grasp of Malak are going to shine way above this in the Crucible because of stats and the rolls that we have on them. It just seems to tickle people way too much in this mode as opposed to shred people, which you'd kind of expect with higher rate of fire weapons. It's a similar problem in all of the semi-auto modes as well. There are just much better weapons to do what these modes can do, and I don't think that it's because this gun is bad, but the handling in the modes outside of full auto just doesn't feel all that great. The target acquisition and the scopes just don't feel that comfortable when it's not trying to be an auto rifle, and I'd say that it is because it's an auto rifle. Whatever you do to the weapon, it's still going to have those intrinsic characteristics of an auto rifle, and this for me just makes the other modes not feel that great. And it is a raw feeling kind of thing. Whatever the numbers may be, the weapon just doesn't feel as good as I'd like it to when it's doing anything outside of being an auto rifle. To its merit though, you do have a bunch of perks and different things to choose from for range and stability in the magazine size. There are a lot of ways to spec the weapon. You might have a different experience to me depending on your playstyle and what kind of content you play. In PvE, I can kind of say the same things. Full auto on the whole feels pretty good. Again, it's limited in the same ways that all other auto rifles are limited, and the other modes in PvE feel okay. I'm not super keen on the handling again, but it's not a bad thing in PvE. I feel like one of the things going against it is that Zalo Supercell is still kind of the reigning champion for exotic auto rifles in PvE, which isn't going to help when picking an exotic primary. And this does sound like a lot of harsh comments for this weapon right here, but the best way to describe it, which is also how a lot of people anticipated it would be, is that yes, this weapon is a jack of all trades. It can do all of these really cool things, and it can mimic a lot of other types of weapons, but it's not really a master of any of these things. Which, I mean, could we really expect it to be godly in all modes? Well, no, not really. But my favorite thing about the weapon is the 900 RPM mode in PvP. I actually really enjoy it, using it in this mode. I just wish that I felt like I wanted to use the other modes a little bit more. But there you go, guys. These are my opinions on the weapon, so take them with a bit of so taken with a pinch of salt, you may feel differently about it. It's still a super uber cool weapon, and I'll definitely be using it just for the cool factor of what the weapon is. That 900 RPM mode, again, is a lot of fun in the Crucible. So there you go, guys, just my thoughts. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, a like and comment down below is appreciated. Let me know what you think of this weapon. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit subscribe for a lot more Rise of Iron content, but for now, you guys have an awesome day.